So there is disturbing news, ladies and gentlemen, coming out of the United States, and I'm trying to say this lightly as possible because I know a lot of these videos are Debbie Downers, and the future is looking bleaker than ever, but I don't know what else to say when the Defense Department is coming after you. That's the most nicest way I could say about this. So, it is stated the Defense Department, with the stroke of a pen, has quietly codified its right to deploy lethal force against its own citizens. This is not a drill. To reissue the Directive 5240.01 is a declaration of intent. The military, an entity designed for external enemies, now turns its gaze inward, poised to act with deadly perception when the inevitable clash of wills erupts. This is design. They anticipate conflict, and in their anticipation, they prepare the battlefields, our streets, our homes, our lives, and they will strike with full force of a war machine built to crush foreign adversaries, but not aligned with to dismantle internal dissent. The facade of representative government crumbles as the state arms itself, not just with weapons, but with the legal and bureaucratic tools to enact violence under the guise of order. That was once unthinkable is now written, approved, and ready to be executed. This is not preparation for defense. This is preparation for domination. Be warned, when the state moves in silence, is because it expects resistance. Martial law will always be the goal. And here it is here, folks. Written in stone. This is not even a joke. This is not conspiracy. This is directives from the DOD 5240.01. The DOD intelligence and intelligence-related activities and defense intelligence component assisted to law enforcement agencies and other civil authorities. And this just came out just in September 27th, 2024. So they state, and they highlighted this part here, and I'm going to try and make this a bit bigger for people to read, because this is the horrific part. So in this statement here, it says the assistance in responding with assets with potential for lethality or any situation in which is reasonably foreseeable that providing the requested assistance may involve the use of force that is likely to result in lethal force, including death or serious bodily injury. It also concludes that all support to civilian law enforcement officials in situations where a confrontation between civilian law enforcement and civilian individuals or groups is reasonably anticipated. So it seems like all the stuff that we claim that other countries are doing, and we overthrow other nations to enact these laws to go after them, is now circling back home. It seems like that was all practice. We practice on other countries and other people in desperate situations, more desperate situations than we are, and now it's coming back home. Because now they're introducing martial law, full lethal force to Americans. American army is now able to use lethal force for American citizens, the same citizens that they're claimed to protect. They're claiming to be held accountable for their safety. So, Free Prince posted this again. This is the guy who's writing all this. He is stating this is directive. It's the clearest reminder yet of why the right to bear arms is non-negotiable. When the state prepares to use military force against its own citizens, it becomes crystal clear. An armed populace is the last defense against tyranny. The Second Amendment wasn't written for hunting or sport. It was written for moments like this, when government overreach threatens to crush individual liberty. An unarmed people are powerless, And that's what they want. Stay vigilant, stay armed. The right to defend yourself against oppression is not just a right, it's a necessity. So this is why I scream at the top of my lungs and vastly, a huge defender of free speech. This is why I have screamed at the top of my lungs about censorship the most. Because that is also a tactic to restrict power from us. Because if we don't know about these things, if we don't know about information and key critical facts, key critical information that helps everyday people that we don't know about so that they can remain in power, is oppressing us. It's restricting us from power. It's restricting us from eligibility. And considering on top of all that, the divisive language and all the virtue signaling, the wokeness, that's all part of this agenda. They want to keep you divided as much as possible. That's why they will have people scream at the top of the lungs about right wing and left wing, and whether you're a liberal or a conservative, or what bathrooms you should be using, or whether it's okay for children to get puberty blockers. They will scream the loudest at anything that keeps you divided, but nothing that actually helps people and unites us together. That's why they will scream so loud about special rights for trans people or LGBTQ, but they don't mention about how LGBTQ and trans people and black people and brown people and white people and any people are getting screwed over by the same economic system. How none of you can afford groceries. How none of you can be able to afford a roof over your head. How you have to make critical key decisions of feeding your kids or having the lights on. They keep you at bay of civil war, and this is the purpose of it. So I'm a supporter of the Second Amendment because of this. I'm a supporter of this because without it, that is our final straw. That is our final straw. If we don't have that, and we're already losing the First Amendment by tyrannical force, because apparently the Constitution that these politicians take an oath to uphold find it more of a suggestion than is actual legal responsibility and constitutional rights for everybody. It comes down to this, and the fact that they're using lethal force. And sadly, it's been a long time coming that people knew about this. People like Alex Jones predicted this 20 years ago. And this may be why places like Baton Rouge, Louisiana, and Fort Wayne, Indiana, literally the smallest places, smallest communities across the United States, have tanks, have municipal tanks ready to deploy at civilians. Methinks that was leading up to something like this. And considering that, on top of January 6th, that they're still trying to bastardize half the nation for, how they're trying to bastardize half the nation for being deplorables because they voted a game show host and not sticking to the same establishment that screwed the country 9 ways to Sunday. How we've now coined the phrase domestic terrorist among our own neighbors and friends and family. This was all preparation for this. And now it's become clear. And not a single word of mainstream media, not a single publication, not a single even podcaster, really, not the mainstream podcast, are concerned about this. They don't mention this. They have not mentioned this. But it takes very few people to see the obvious signs to warn you how devastating this is. And how I have to remind people, and what I've been trying to do with this show, and my whole intent of bringing you this information is not to be divisive. It's not to divide. It's not to be angry at my friends and family and neighbors, because I adore my members of the community. I support my members of the community because they support me. Because we as people need to be all together. We need to unite together to stand up against this. They want to keep you divided. They want to keep you in anger so that they can have control like this against you and everybody else, to keep you powerless and not in sight of this. But I want to unite people, whether you're liberal, conservative, Republican, Democrat, libertarian, Green Party, whether you're a vegetarian or a meat eater. I don't care who you are in this world. We as people, we as working people, a working class, need to stand up in solidarity among class lines to go after a class warfare, because this is what it is. This is what class warfare leads to. Because they're not going to use military force. They're not going to storm into the Malibu celebrities that are supportive of the government. They're not going to go after Sean Penn, because Sean Penn is a good little boy for Ukraine. They're not going to go after, Lindsey. They're not going to go after the rich of the rich. But they're going to go after you. They're going to go after people like you who work 9 to 5 or whatever jobs you have, who work endlessly to make ends meet. And you're just trying to do everything to survive. And now your own government, that your tax dollars are being siphoned to for endless warfare overseas, are now doing warfare to you. This is absolutely disgusting. And this is where, people like Russell Brand or Tucker Carlson and a lot of spiritual leaders, when they say that there's a warfare of good and evil, when there's a spiritual battle happening, I feel like this is it. I feel like this is what they mean by spiritual warfare, that there's a demonic presence that's going to attack humanity. And to me, this sounds demonic. I mean, I'm not a practicing religious person. I'm not very uppity on religion, conflated over my entire life and sit on the fence on numerous things. But to me, this sounds like the most evil thing any human being can be capable of. That they're going to sign away the entire country to use lethal force to attack their own civilians. That seems demonic to me. So maybe this is what they were preemptively warning us about. And now it's happening. And again, I haven't seen any newscasts. I have not seen any publication, not even anywhere outside the United States. You would think maybe even Canada News would report on this. No. It comes down to people like me on a shoestring budget podcast like this to warn you about extreme measures of totalitarian force. So extreme that it makes Joseph Stalin spin around in his grave. And this is supposedly the democracy. This is supposedly the world we're trying to save and preserve. The new world order fascist dictatorship of global power. This is what we're preserving. This is the whole intent. Why we can't have, Joe Blow on Twitter. Why we can't have people speak on social media, because we're trying to preserve this. So I guess the only thing I could say left is prepare yourself. Prepare yourself. Let's get together. Let's stop the nonsense. Don't fall into the traps of division and political prosecution. Don't fall into those traps. And let's work together as human beings, fighting against this force of huge evil against humanity.